Well, I certainly messed that up because I was busy chatting with the beautiful Catherine that is down here with me this evening. Hello, Kat. How are you doing?
I'm good.
As every Friday night, she will be sitting off to the side, thumbing through the comments and responding to folks. Well, welcome to Friday Night AV, guys. This is my 6th episode. Once again, I'd like to apologize. Last Friday night, I was feeling like absolute garbage, and you wouldn't want to listen to my voice. That is for certain. So thanks for everybody that hung out with us on Wednesday night, but we are back on AV Kick this Friday night. So I want to thank all my subscribers, certainly thank the Patreon members. You guys definitely make this worth doing. I enjoy always looking for new content, try to look up new guests, and got a cool guest this evening, which you guys all know pretty well. And also next Friday night, I got Wayne Pamposa on, so we're going to have some fun with him. I would, and I just made this decision earlier today. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go on at 7 o'clock live and talk about the RTJs because over the last about 2 or 3 weeks, I've got like 8 or 9 pretty decent questions, and I just thought it would make for decent content and just be a little bit more fun to go on live. And I'll ask the questions out loud and answer them. And then if you guys want to chime in or play along, I will be going live 7 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow. What time did I just say?
7.
7, yeah, 7 o'clock. I will be on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And so I will, anyway, to the 6 people that are watching, sorry for that confusion right there. I had 2 other things going on the side, and then my phone was going off, so I was trying to deal with that. Work is always going on. So anyway, episode 6, Friday Night AV, and I would like to welcome to this. We have Ryan Charpentier, which you guys probably know him. He is the owner of Ascend AV, and he is also the co-founder of MWAVE, and he also works with madVR. I think he got his hands in a couple other things too. So let's welcome Ryan to the show. Brother Ryan. Hey, man. I'm used to watching you on Sunday nights. You guys, it's like a ritual for me and Kat. We're like, oh, we got to turn those guys on. So it's
so sorry.
Yeah. Well, you know, we only have basic cable, so the pickings are slim.
I'd probably pick what was on basic cable over me, but maybe you just enjoy watching a train wreck. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to pull the eyes away from something like that.
It's your beautiful smile, man, that really just draws us all in.
You know, you like me, and I'm sure your wife understands. There is no smile. It's just a mask.
You get a little.
It's all people think when I'm smiling. It's actually just a twitch. There's no smile. It's just,
is that the Celsius kicking in?
It's just kind of. See, that's kicking in right there. There's never a smile. It's all just, I don't know, a symptom of something.
I know a lot of the people that are watching this or that are gonna watch this, know you from a couple different things, but who is Ryan before Ascend AV and before MWAVE? Because I honestly I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Your house and we've hung out.
I don't even know.
Did you wash cars?
So what's the history of me? So I started my career as a network engineer. So I didn't start as a network. Well, yeah, I kind of did start as a network engineer. Worked for several different companies, school districts, ended life working for the DoD and large health systems. Spent a lot of time in data centers, and it just got really boring. So I made sure that all of the networks and interconnectivity through telecommunications and stuff worked. And we were the backbone for everything else to communicate in a lot of these large organizations. So it was interesting when it wasn't just fixing problems. So I just got tired of it. And I made a change after that and became an electrician. So that gave me a different perspective. I did electrical work in high volt and low volt in data centers. So I was helping build them. So now I was on the other side of the equation. I was previously working in them, and then I was now working on them, like creating them. So that was really interesting to be on 2 different sides of that. And then after that, some unfortunate things happened with health and, a delivery truck. And that's why anyway, we don't need to go into that. And then I decided that, you know, this is a good time to maybe try and do my own thing. My dad was an entrepreneur when he was alive and had his own business. And I thought, well, I don't really like working for other people. So why don't I do something myself? And I have a tendency, I guess I should go back and say this, that during a recovery period that I had after the thing that we won't talk about, I guess we can. We can just talk about it. So while I was an electrician, I got hit by a delivery truck on a motorcycle, and that put me in a pretty bad place for a few years. I was close enough to dying that people cared, but I wasn't close enough to dying that I was screwed up for the rest of my life. I was only screwed up for part of it for a couple years, and then my brain, I guess, recovered. So during that time, I decided that I was going to get into combat flight sim, and I actually credit combat flight sim with a big part of that recovery because it forced my brain to have to deal with things, like to problem solve, to work instead of sitting on the couch like a vegetable. And I think a lot of people run into that situation where they don't want to work it. And if you don't work it, you're going to lose it. But because I was working it, it really helped my recovery. But it was a hobby before. And I decided, well, why don't I try streaming? This is what I was doing when I was not able to work. So I started streaming. So I did professional Twitch streaming for a while. I got partnered with Twitch, I averaged like 300 or 400 people when we were doing it. I'd stream competitions and stuff. So it was super cool. Monetize that, turn that into a business. So I guess I have a habit of monetizing my hobbies. And then I decided, you know, this isn't making me a living. I really like home theater. I don't really like any of the dealers that I deal with in home theater. So why don't I try and be the dealer that I would want to be? And that's where Ascend came from. And Michael and I met by me just asking him to come out and record all the Kansas City home theaters for his channel. That was really it. And then that was the end of my life because now it's home theater has taken over. I'm now stuck with all of you, including Scott, and it's just gotten perpetually worse because now I'm here with you.
Well, you and Michael are pretty much attached at the hip. Is he around there somewhere? I don't see him.
No. Michael's sitting in a closet somewhere. I only let him out when I have to.
Oh. So, how long has Ascend AV been in operation?
So I have been doing this since only the end of 2021.
Okay.
So under 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say just pushing 2 years now.
Almost 2 years. And I actually, when I started the business, was the night after or the night before Michael recorded the video for my theater. So actually, while Jonathan's video is being recorded by Michael, I'm sitting in the corner filling out all of my IRS paperwork and stuff to start my own business. Cool. So that's where that all started. And while we were driving to Jonathan's, I was making phone calls like, should I do this? Is this a good idea? Is this worthwhile? And that's, people don't know that, but that whole thing, that whole video series is kind of what started this whole endeavor.
Is that when the projector shootout was going on, or is my time
that
frame?
Didn't happen till January. So the room recordings took place in the beginning of December, I think. And then I invited Michael back out for the projector shootout. I was going to do it again in January, or maybe it was the end of November. But I just said, he said, I don't think my wife will let me come back that quick. And I said, okay, we'll push it till January. And that's where that kind of started. And that's what got Michael really hooked on the whole comparison endeavor and shootout thingamabob that we do here in Kansas City.
So when you pitch that idea to your wife and your family, I mean, how does that conversation go? Not well, we won't even get into MWAVE yet. We'll get in that later.
The projector shootout?
No, just starting Ascend.
So I was actually really fortunate because it's kind of weird to say that I was fortunate to be hit by a truck, but I was really
Congratulations.
Fortunate. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody should strive for that in their life, you know? It's because I got hit. I was on Social Security disability. So I was fully disabled for 4 years. Because I was on that program, Social Security Disability has a thing called the Return to Work program, because they don't want you to stay, obviously, on Social Security Disability. They would rather you return to the workforce.
Yeah.
So this program allows you to continue to get Social Security Disability while you attempt to return to work. So I'm thinking, I kind of want to see if I can do this, like not just see if a business is successful, but to see if I could even like work full time. Because at this point, I'm still struggling. I've got problems turning my head because my brain's having problems with reflexes, and I've got migraines and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, like, can I even do this? So the benefit of this is that I could dip my toe in without really risking my family's financial security, if you will, because I was able to maintain that income, menial though it was. I was still able to have something while I was doing this whole thing. And I was very fortunate. Strangely, it's kind of weird of me to say that, but I was very fortunate to have that golden parachute, if you will, to be able to fall back on it. It was a lot less stress to be able to do it that way, because I wasn't worried about, crap, if this doesn't work, what am I going to do? It was more of, I've got this thing to fall back on. And I think that was a big part of the success, was I was able to not worry about it and have fun with it. I think people get so caught up in the worry and the stress and everything about it that can actually cause negative things to happen and for things to fail. But because I was enjoying it, I wasn't stressed about it. I probably put more time into it, and it allowed it to succeed. So I got lucky. I got very lucky. I'll just say that.
So when you started this conversation off, you said, I started this because I didn't like the way that my available dealers were. What didn't you like, and what were you striving to change?
So I didn't like how a lot of dealers are financially motivated. And that kind of sounds like a weird thing to say, because it is a business, right? You should be trying to do things that are financially beneficial to you, the business owner. But what I didn't like is that there was a lot of gray area that was perpetuated in order to exacerbate that function. So there was a lot of fallacies that were pushed to try and push certain products that got them more money. So instead of existing in an objective space, they existed in the subjective space in order to prioritize or to cloak things that allowed them to have a better financial return. And whether or not they actually believe those things, I don't know. But at the end of the day, what ended up happening is I figured out these things suck and they were way too expensive. And somebody blew smoke up my butt, and I believed it. And it ended up costing a lot of money. And I just thought, yeah, I don't want that to happen to anybody else. There's not really anybody that I would want to buy stuff from here in my area. So I'm going to do it myself. And I've always had that mindset of, instead of just talking about it, I'll just go do it, because talk is talk, I guess. And I'd rather just get something done instead of sitting there yabbering about it. I mean, I'll talk with the best of them, but I'd rather just get something and knock it out and be done with it, instead of repeatedly talking about it and not putting anything on the table as a deliverable. So it just came down to them kind of burning me, if you will. What ended up happening is they bought my Martin Logans, the Martin Logans you see behind me, these guys, which I loved. I still do love them.
Yeah, and I heard them. They sounded absolutely fantastic.
They're fantastic. I did love them. But the problem is he also sold me amplifiers, cables, and subs. The amplifiers were PS Audio BHK 300 special editions. They're monoblocks. Their MSRP, and I did not pay this, I paid a lot, but it wasn't this, is $15,000 a piece. There were 3 of them. So, do math. Then it was cables. Now I bought used cables, so they were like a few $100s a piece instead of the thousands that they would have been new. And then it was 2 subs, and they were REL 212 special editions. And I thought this stuff was amazing. Like, out of this world. And then I met all of our blight and all of our, kryptonite, Jonathan. I go over to his house and he turns something on. And I look at Jonathan and just say, my subs don't do that. And that was the end. And then I bought 4000s and sold the 212s. And that was the end for me. It was downhill. Now look what I'm doing. It's just over. Jonathan ruined my life at that point.
I think you got that bumper sticker on your car, don't you?
We should. We talked about making jackets and stuff. We should have these different patches that we should get, and one of them should be Jonathan ruined my life. That should be one of them.
I like how you keep the Celsius can turned towards you until they're going to pay for something. Then you're not.
It's just
I know.
I can't drink out of it like this. Celsius. I can't do that. That's just how they
50 cents.
Yeah. Can't do that.
So just because I'm not super familiar with Ascend, I mean, obviously I know that you're the owner and I know that you sell products. What does Ascend like offer, say to like, if I was a consumer, if I called you on the phone, do you handle everything from complete room build outs or just equipment or calibrations?
Whole thing. So I try and be flexible. I don't typically do like hang and bangs, so TVs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just,
I thought you were talking about a different business. Sorry.
Well, I mean, some people maybe that's what they're into, and maybe this is just code for the industry. I don't.
Yeah. I'm winking both eyes. I'm not tired.
So I have to be careful about what I do because I also work for madVR. And we actually need to go back because we need to talk about that. So when I first started Ascend, I was trying to find vendors that I wanted to bring on board. And I decided, for whatever reason, that I was going to go after a premium company like madVR and do the video processing thing. And I was trying to talk to them already about doing something with us for the January shootout, which he did graciously offer us a loaner madVR unit for that shootout. But I asked Rick, who's the CEO of madVR, if I could come bring his company on as a vendor. He graciously said no. But in return, he said, hey, I really like your history, your work history, what Ascend stands for, what your mindset is. Would you be interested in coming to work for me? And so for anybody that doesn't know, my background aside from IT and stuff is I was really big into overclocking with GPUs and CPUs, liquid nitrogen, dry ice, all that kind of stuff. So I have a history of PC building, computers, electronics, pushing things to the limit. So it gave me a really good understanding about how to repair things, how to run the support. I was an enthusiast in the home theater space, not as much as I am now, but an enthusiast in the home theater space. So it fit really well to be able to do support and to do training for madVR internationally, which is what I still do. So the cool thing about that is being an enthusiast, being a custom integrator, and working for madVR gives me probably the only viewpoint in the entire industry of somebody that sees it from all three sides. So I see it from the consumer, I see it from the custom integrator, and I see it from the vendor. So every level, I have a viewpoint of how the industry functions. And it gives me a very intimate view into how everything interacts with each other and how I can best service everyone involved. So if I'm an end user, I only see it from how can the industry service me as an end user. If I'm a custom integrator, I see it from that way. If I'm a vendor, I see it that way. But in this way, especially with MWAVE, and I think this is part of why MWAVE's been successful, is we are able to facilitate interactions that are beneficial in every different dynamic. So to the individual customer, to the dealers, to the vendors, and everybody walks away being a beneficiary Because all too often with these situations, what ends up happening is everybody's just like, I want this and I want you to give it to me. Regardless if you're a consumer, integrator, or vendor, it's always what can you give me? But what MWAVE does is it's what can we give everyone and how can we make the space overall better? And I think that's what's been huge part of what makes MWAVE successful is it's just making the space overall better instead of trying to focus on how can we make the vendors more money, how can enthusiasts get better deals or get free stuff, or how can custom integrators get both because they're kind of the middle ground of everything. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent, but
I'm
Ascend.
following you. You're just leave the breadcrumbs, brother. I'm right behind you.
So Ascend is all about trying to allow people to live and facilitate their own journey, because I have found that an end user is much more satisfied, because this is how I'm more satisfied. Maybe I'm an enigma to the industry. I don't know. As a consumer, I have found that I am more satisfied when I come to conclusions on my own, right? When I am able to use my information and my understanding about whatever it is that I'm trying to make a decision on. And if I understand something, not necessarily to its fundamentals, but have a decent understanding about what I'm buying, I am going to be overall happier with that purchase or conclusion than I would be just making a purchase based on somebody else's opinion, right? Because I know I'm buying it for X, Y, or Z reason, and that fits me as a person. So I try and lead people on or help facilitate people leading themselves on their own journey, right? So if somebody's coming in and buying or wanting to buy a speaker or an AVR or projector, I'm not just going to give them some spiel about you should buy this one. I'm going to try and educate them about, hey, this is what all these projectors do. Let's talk about your space. And then let's find out what would be most beneficial in your space. And then you can make that decision for yourself. So I'm just a Sherpa kind of guiding people along on their journey is really all it is. And then the people come up with their own conclusions. Now, if somebody says, hey, I really just want your opinion on something, I'll gladly give it. But part of the problem that I have with that is any opinion that is given from somebody that is seen as a person of knowledge in a space has a certain level of unconscious subjectivity or bias that is now being imparted on that individual. And I don't really like that, because you're now coloring the potential outcome of what that person may have. Just like when we do shootouts or comparisons, any type of subjectivity that enters that colors the end result. So I try and remove as much of that as possible, because I think it ends up being a more pure outcome and people are happier with it. Like I very, very rarely get returns, if ever. And it's really the only time I ever get returns is because I don't even know really why. I couldn't really tell you. I don't even remember the last return I got. And I think that's because people are happy with their end result. They're happy with the conclusion they came from or came to, instead of just being told what to buy. So
Well, not only that, dude, you were giving some smoking deals like that stuff at MWAVE that you were selling open box or used. It was literally like 3 days old. And it made
I don't want to move it. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, so we ran MWAVE, right? Michael and I did. Thank God for the volunteers, because it doesn't work without the volunteers. And I really wish that I could be more, happy during MWAVE. I know a lot of people were like, dude, you look like you were hit by a truck. And there's a lot going on in MWAVE, right? Michael is there to jam out and have fun, because his work really doesn't start, like his heavy lifting work doesn't start till after with the videos. I mean, he does a lot leading up. But MWAVE, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to put out fires, trying to build out these comparisons, trying to make sure all the vendors are happy. I probably did look like I got hit by a truck, because I got hit by a figurative truck. So I really apologize. I feel bad for a lot of the volunteers, because I think a lot of them thought I was mad at them, and I wasn't mad. It was just I was trying to get stuff done.
You better watch it, because Kat's a volunteer next year.
Oh, she'll be fantastic. I'll be much better next year, because we're trying to find ways that I can have more time so that I can be able to talk to people, help people. So we're trying to one thing we're going to do is put all the comparisons on a schedule so that this is when this comparison is going to be run. This is when this comparison is going to be run. And unfortunately, those comparisons are probably going to be behind like a very, very small paywall, like $5 or something. And the reason that would be is because we're going to have a finite amount of space. We offer financing only for you.
Thank
Scott,
you.
Only for
Send
you.
me the Affirm link so I can try to get set up for that.
Oh, it's PayPal financing only.
Oh, shit.
Sorry.
Oof.
Sorry. So the reason it's that is because we're going to have a finite amount of space. Like if we theoretically, let's say we get, I don't know, 800 attendees, right? I can't fit 800 people in one room. So we have to have some level of limited availability. And we don't want to just do it with people signing up, because then what happens if people don't show up when they sign up, right? Well, that's a wasted spot. But by putting it on a small paywall, right? If you don't show up, well, now you're out a little bit of money. So it just allows people to have a little, stake in the game. Ryan seemed stressed the heck out. Dude, I was stressed the heck out. That wasn't seemed. That was. I mean, that was exhausting. We moved 4 26-foot trucks full of stuff there and back. It was, guys, it was a lot. We went from one van at 20 MWAVE in 2022 to 4 26-foot trucks.
We watched Michael's videos. There was all garage fulls, truck fulls,
It was
big old things down the street.
Vendors delivering stuff and 6 garages full from top to bottom of everything in MWAVE, and then we had to move it all.
You feel like answering a question or two before, because I want to get started to the beginning of MWAVE, because we got Michael's start a story, but you cool with answering a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want people to get So home theater nerd, hi fellas. When you talk about running your subs hot, how do you measure that? Do you measure levels on subs, then center and compare dB levels, or do you do a full range sweep?
If I'm not leaving the room feeling like I have a concussion, the subs aren't hot enough.
Yeah.
No. I measure and then I boost to an appropriate value.
Yeah, I mean myself, I usually calibrate to reference and make sure everything's good, and then I just start bumping up the low end, and then I'll have a few different presets saved, 8 dB hot, 15 dB hot, 50 dB hot, whatever we're looking for.
I mean, I don't magically know that I'm going to love 15 dB hot. It's all through making sure I've got a flat response, or however I want my room curve to be, and then boosting appropriately, boosting and cutting like the overall room curve to facilitate the level of low frequency that I want.
Yeah. So I think they are answered for that home theater nerd is we just shoot for the reference and then we boost the low end to taste pretty much. And me personally, I just have a couple different boosts saved in presets. I mean, a lot of people do that, and we'll do a few dB hotter on each preset because some things you don't need all that boost. Some things you do. So hope we answered your question there, buddy. And then we have Brian on here. Hey guys, I use Cubos. What is the best way for me to make the most out of that service without spending an insane amount of money? I also use Cubos on the 2-channel setup, Brian, on the RTJ setup. And I mean, I really enjoy it. I also have Amazon Ultra HD. I compare them. Some, I like better on Cubos, some better on Amazon HD. But I personally run it through a Blue Sound node, but I do use external DAC through a SMSL, the SU9. That's how I personally use it. Ryan, your thoughts? What streaming services are you rocking if you're listening to music over there?
Spotify and Cubase. I'm going to be honest. I typically just use Spotify or Apple Music for surround. I would just use a Blue Sound.
Yeah, you definitely could use the Blue Sound. I did that for a while, and then if you do an external DAC, it's super easy with the Blue Sound too. If you want to explore that, and you can get good DACs for like $100-$200 if you just want to play around with one. So
yeah.
But speaking of Apple, that Atmos music is what's up, man. I love listening to that shit in the theater.
Jonathan again ruined me.
I think somebody put in here.
Existence.
That's Jonathan for you.
Yeah.
Man.
Just how he rolls. Ruin it for all of us.
All right. So now that we took, what did you do, Kat? Did you? Oh, I hit that. I'm sorry. So we kind of got Michael's thoughts on the beginning of MWAVE and where he was mentally and how all that started. Where what's like your side of the story? What I mean, when that idea came up and how it was presented and like kind of how you present that, say to your wife, like I'm going to start a big audio. I mean, like what is, how does all this just even,
how did I broach that with my wife and say, hey babe, I just started a company. Now I want to start a huge event.
yeah,
Let's see how much we can throw in the fire and where it ends up. I don't know. I don't know how my wife is this tolerable. Sometimes I think she's not tolerant at all, but then I look back at the crap that I've done and it's like, man, if I were her, I don't know how I would have reacted to that. So what did we do?
Well, for the people that don't know, well, first of all, I had my MWAVE tickets. I bought on opening day. So for the people that think that I, for some reason, get into MWAVE free or something, no, I pay first day.
He pays double.
Everything costs money, and I'm more than happy to support something for this hobby, man. It gives me something to do, something to look forward to. So
he just wants free stuff.
Yeah, I want that free bumper sticker. Jonathan ruined my life.
Dude, we do need to make that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so how did, I mean, how did this start for you? What's your vision on MWAVE? Is things going as planned? I mean, like just off the cusp, man, what's your thoughts on all of this?
So how did it start? It actually started when I was driving Michael to the airport. And this was after the January comparison. We decided that wouldn't it be cool, or we thought, this was all us brainstorming, wouldn't it be cool if we could do these comparisons more often? And that really wasn't all that feasible because they're running more of these was rough. Getting one to go was a lot. I mean, getting people into this January comparison that took place in early 2022 for the projectors, we had like 9 projectors. So we had all of the new JVCs. It was the first time they'd ever really been seen all together doing comparisons. We had a couple Epsons. We had the older JVCs. We had some Sonys. We had an Optima. We had a bunch of different stuff on 2 side-by-side 100-inch screens. And just getting that all together was a lot. And then we're masochists. We thought, oh, we did it once. Let's just do it in like 5 different rooms. What could go wrong? I don't know. Lots of things could go wrong, but we didn't think about that. So we thought, man, it'd be really cool if we could bring people together, if we could make an event out of this and make it bigger, because there's nothing that really existed like this or still does exist like this in the space. Everything is like, and there's nothing wrong with it, but everything's like the Florida Audio Show or Expona or Cedia that's only for dealers, or the Pacific Audio Show or any of that stuff. It's more of just, we're going to have rooms and you can go listen to stuff. And that's all well and good, but it's so subjective. Like if I walk into a room, it's all based on hearsay. You're basing everything that you're listening to on the qualities of the person that set it up. You know nothing about the setup. There's no objective comparisons. You're going to listen to one thing in one room. You're going to walk out. You're going to go into another room. You may or may not listen to the same thing in there, because a lot of people like to play jazz and all kinds of other stuff. And you ask them to play rock and like, hell no. And what they don't tell you is they don't want you to play that because it sounds like crap on their speakers.
I went to Expona and literally, I mean, other than like seeing Mark Seaton and hanging out with JTR guys in their bigger rooms, those other rooms suck, man. I don't want to go listen to $100,000 turntable in a closet.
No. Well, what I think a lot of people don't know is a lot of those speakers, and maybe I'm over exaggerating this, but I've seen it on very expensive speakers, is it's just parts from Parts Express. Like guys are literally going to buy drivers from Parts Express, putting them on speakers, like multi-$100,000 speakers with multi-$100,000 cables that improve the sound. And then saying that it's the bee's knees. Like it's amazing. It's not. So
Because they're trying to train people that that's how it's supposed to sound. That's how it's supposed to be, just because you
Well,
spend a bunch of money on it.
You don't know, because if you don't have a direct A/B comparison or reference, we as people are dumb, right? We're not smart. I mean, some people are smart, but in the general consent sphere of everything, people are not as smart as they think they are, or we are, me included. And our memories suck. So if we listen to one thing and we do not have a direct A/B reference to immediately put after that, like fast switch, I'm talking like instantaneously move back and forth. If we don't have that, we immediately forget about what that sounded like. Even if it's like half a second, it becomes very difficult for us to do a direct A/B comparison. Try and do it yourself. In a blind
I
comparison.
already
No,
know.
you do it, but I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
way there. Try and do it yourself blind, because if you don't do it blind, you're introducing subjectivity bias, right? What'll end up happening is you're going to play one thing, and then the one that you subconsciously like more, I can almost guarantee you're going to like more. But if you do it blind and you don't know which one you're listening to, none of it matters, right? So you have to remove as many of these variables as possible to get a true unswayed result. And if you don't have this fast switching, this is why the room EQ stuff was so important. And like the speaker comparison and the sub comparison at MWAVE was so important. And I had to figure out how to facilitate these as fast as possible. And that's why most people don't do this stuff, because it's really hard. Like I have had to think on this stuff for weeks to try and figure out how to do it. I mean, to do what we did this year with the room EQ stuff, with the digital switching, I mean, that took forever to try and figure out how we were going to do it. Thank God for Bob to be able to run that. But it took me forever to figure out, like, how do I even want to build this out? What is it going to look like? How do I want to build out the speaker comparisons, the sub comparisons? Because if I don't do it right and I don't do fast switching, you're coloring the result. And this is what I think a lot of people don't realize that happens at dealers. Dealers can actually color the result unbeknownst to you. As an example, let's say we're listening to something, and let's say you don't know what you're listening to, like what hardware you're listening to. Let's say you listen to one song on X piece of hardware. Then you're going to listen to the same song on a different piece of hardware. But before they turn it on the second one, they mention, now I want you to listen for this. Doesn't matter what it is. What typically ends up happening is you will hear what they told you to listen for, and you will think that you didn't hear it in the first session. Mm-hmm. And because you think that, you now think that the second set of speakers or hardware or whatever is now better. So that is a very simple way to color a result. And I don't even know that necessarily dealers know that they're doing that, but there's a lot of psychology that goes into this that people don't think about, and they can ruin comparisons unbeknownst to themselves. So it's really important to not be in control of any of it and let somebody else drive the ship, so that you can be and get as uncolored and tried and true result as possible. And that's what Michael and I really wanted for MWAVE. I mean, the first time we did MWAVE in 2022, each day was something different. So the first day we had the room EQ comparison, which was in one room. And then the that first day, still in a different area, we had a speaker comparison. The speaker comparison that year wasn't blind, because I hadn't thought out enough yet, and I was overwhelmed with what we had already. And then on the second day, they did an amp comparison in the room that room EQ was in. And then on the main floor, we did a projector comparison. And we tried to do as much of this blind as possible. And I think people were shocked at the results. Like this year, I heard time and time again how little difference there was between the room EQ.
It blows my mind, speaking about room EQ, because I partaked in some of that. And then, you hop on the forums, and you know, and people are like, oh, you know, I switched processors and now we won't even mention what EQ, but they're just like, oh, it's like I'm listening to a whole different set of speakers. My whole room changed. Dude, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't notice the difference between a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel it comes down to the room that you're using it in.
Absolutely.
That's where you're at.
I think it's not only the room you're in. There's a few different things. The room you're in, what the room EQ does to your low end, like what it does to the house curve, how hot or like neutral it makes your bass. Because if it does that, it can be a huge difference. Like if it boosts your low frequency unanimously, and this happened in 2022, people think the one with more low frequency is better. And that happens during speaker comparisons too, which is why I always put a curtain. If you don't put a curtain at the low end when you're doing speaker comparisons, the one that gets the lowest is always going to win every time, because we view it as a more full sound. So if a speaker doesn't have the same low frequency potential, if you don't put a curtain on it, you're coloring the result. It's really important to do that.
Speaking of the psychological thing, that reminds me of when I used to go to all the high-end dealers around Chicagoland area, and they would always tell you, they'd be like, now a trained ear will listen for this. So you would almost psych yourself into, oh, I'm hearing what he says because I'm an audiophile. Yep. And if I don't hear it, then I'm just some idiot sitting here. And you'd be like, yeah, you're right, man. It's just a load of shit.
You don't realize when that's happening that it's happening.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. And you're being sold, right? Oh. That's what ends up happening. But the guy running the test may not even realize that he's doing it. Is the interesting part. Because they think, oh, I'm just trying to show people what I think is better. But unbeknownst to them, they're actually coloring their test and making it invalid. So,
we keep going on all these different roads because we both just go on these side quests. It seems like.
Oh yeah, I always get drawn down those things for MWAVE. Well, anything in general. It's hard to keep me on track. I'm like a squirrel or a dog.
So you guys went first year, if my memory serves me right, from about 80 people. Was it around 80?
So we went from about something like that to over 300.
Yeah, I didn't make it the first year, but I mean, the second year blew me away because, like I was telling Kate, I mean, literally, dude, I got no sleep during any of that. I MWAVed with you guys all day. The one night I was at your house till like 2 a.m. And then, then I went out to the casino. Then the next day we did MWAVE. Then I was at Jonathan's house till like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't just me. That was everybody, because another group of guys were going out for drinks. So another group of guys were going out for dinner. Another group of guys was going to another guy's house. Like it was literally, see, the shows that I've been to, nothing was like that. I pretty much, you just kind of go, you listen to a couple things, and it's a lonely ride home.
That's all Michael. Michael has created a space that is so welcoming and has really facilitated the idea that we're all like-minded individuals. Go get to know each other, right? That's what he brings to the table. And it's huge. And it's a big part of what separates MWAVE from everything else. Like I can do the technical stuff. I can't do what he does. Like he is the face of all of this. Frankly, I want nothing to do with that. But he is the magic of what makes all of this work. So that's all down to him. And you're exactly right. I mean, whenever I get all those guys together, I love it, but it is dangerous because I do not sleep. Yeah. Like Michael and I, when we're running MWAVE, we're like, we're finally going to get some sleep. And then we're up till 4 a.m. just shooting the crap because we love this space. You get a bunch of guys together that really love this, and you don't feel... There's no awkwardness. There's no anything, even if you don't know each other, because there's that common ground. Something my wife really doesn't understand about it. She's like, how do you get to know all these people? And why do you talk to them? I'm like,
I've seen it in our house.
That's
I've seen it at our house. I'm like, you're going to bring all these strangers over here, but everybody just
now Kat's sucked into the group, man. Yep. So
my wife,
I don't know the technical or none of the jazz, but the people are cool.
My wife wants nothing to do with it. Bless her for allowing me to do it.
When because Youth Man and Jeff from JTR and that were out here, but literally, the night before we had some famous DJ from Chicago that I didn't really know, but he uses all JTR equipment in his DJ setup. And I guess he DJs on like Carnival cruises and like for the Chicago Bulls and stuff like that. And Jeff goes, hey, he really wants to check out your home theater. The dude came down like 1 o'clock in the morning and we're hanging out. And
sounds like you.
I was like, dude, we got to be up in a couple hours, like, because I got 60 people coming to my house. And then even after the 60 people left at like 8 or 9, me, Jeff, and Youth Man, and a couple other guys, we went and shot pool for a couple hours. Then we went to Buffalo Wild Wings at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that's the sense of time means nothing because you're having such a good time. So, but you know what's funny about MWAVE bringing people together, and this really blew Kat's mind, and honestly it blew my mind too, is when I did my event after your guys' event, a couple of guys I met in MWAVE, and Johnny, if you're watching, you're one of them. I met Johnny at MWAVE, and he goes, hey man, I want to come up to your event, man. I just love this group of people. He literally flew from Texas to Chicago, red-eye flight, hung out for 4 hours. He rented a car, drove an hour and a half from the airport to my house, hung out for 3-4 hours, drove back, flew back to Texas that night.
Yep.
And Kat goes, she's like, dude, this is an insane like brotherhood that everybody's created in this. So she's like, I'm in. I want to go to MWAVE next year. I met all these guys. Everybody seems cool. So
I'm so sorry.
Well, don't say that yet. Wait until we get there. You can apologize in person.
It's all right. She'll just get her bumper sticker. Jonathan ruined my life.
Yeah, I need one of those too.
Yeah, we'll throw it on her Jeep. So you went from 80 to 300. I mean, what's your not only what's your outlook on say this year, what's your what's just where are you looking? What do you want MWAVE to become?
I think this year we're anticipating we could get close to 1,000.
That's a number.
It is a number.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd be happy with anything over 500. I'd be happy if we got the same number, but I think that's where we think we're going to get. I think with what MWAVE brings to the table and what it does for the community and what people can get out of it. I mean, we just want the community to be better. And this is what I do when I pitch MWAVE to vendors is that, yes, we want you to come, but this isn't about us. This isn't about me asking for anything free. I don't care about that. I want this event to make the industry as a whole better than it was before I was here. I want to leave it better than it was before. And that's what Michael and I are trying to do. We're trying to bring in education. We're trying to facilitate meaningful relationships and friendships. And we're trying to establish relationships that consumers can have with vendors so they feel more comfortable about making these purchases for the things that they really love. Because if I am thinking about buying, we'll use JTR as an example. If I was already thinking about buying JTR, but then I can go talk to Jeff, the man behind JTR, and get to know him and what his history was, why he started JTR, what the meanings are behind the speakers and stuff. I mean, that's
personal.
I don't even know how to say it. I mean, that's irreplaceable, right? You build that relationship, that personal relationship with the vendor, and now you have an established level of trust that you're not being taken advantage of. So we just want to have the ability for people to, on all sides of the equation, to better themselves and to make the industry as a whole grow. And that's what it is. That's what we all want to do on this journey, is we want our own spaces to be better. I mean, even since I've become a vendor, I've learned an astronomical amount. I mean, I look at my theater that's in there now, or what it was. I'm like, yeah, it was good, but I've learned so much. And I'm looking back like, why did I do that? Like, what was I thinking? And that's how it is for everybody. This is something that I want to make very clear that, guys, we all screw up. Everyone has things that is like, why did I do this? I can guarantee that if you looked at what I was telling people 2 years ago to what I'm telling people now, if it's exactly the same, you better think something's wrong, because it is. If I'm not growing in my knowledge, in my education, and being able to help people along their journey. And I'm not changing or not necessarily saying things differently, but being able to articulate things better, potentially changing slightly how I would implement things. I'm not doing it right, because if you're not continually growing, I think something's wrong, and you better find something else to do. At least in my opinion.
That could be a double-edged sword too, because I've had a million people, especially like say at MWAVE, come out of like the per listen room or come out of the JTR room and be like, "Oh man, I got to order this now. I got to order that now." So it's funny, because I've been in this hobby my whole life, but until I really started digging deep in like the AVS forums, and I was big into like Validine and stuff like that back in the day, but then when I started hearing about JTR and all that, and I strived to go all that route, it certainly got very expensive. Not that Validine was cheap by any means, but you don't know what you're missing, I guess, is what I'm saying. So like a projector, because now I can't stop thinking about like an NZ9 or an NZ7.
Mine's for sale.
Yeah. Oh, hey, my 56K modem is acting up. So for the people that haven't been to MWAVE or just in general, like this whole group of people and my friends and Ryan's friends and just this whole group is no sales are getting pushed on any people's throats. I met a lot of people at MWAVE, like people in the industry, that literally were just excited to show me how their $150,000 projector worked and what it does. And the guy never once is like, "Hey, you want to buy one?" Or,
I
"Here's
think
my contact
the
info."
vendors were very surprised about that, and they really appreciated it because they'd never really been in a position where they could just talk about the things that they represent without worrying about sugarcoating anything and having to talk down. Nothing against people that are not enthusiasts, but it is one thing to talk to somebody that has the same passion that you do than it is to somebody that's just looking to buy a projector, right? It's two totally different things. If I'm talking about TVs to my mom versus talking about TVs to somebody that is an enthusiast, it goes two totally different ways, and I'm going to be wording things in two totally different ways. I didn't like saying ways twice, but you get the idea. So the vendors really appreciated that, and we heard that several times, that they really loved it because they could talk about the things that they really cared about and get into the nitty-gritty, whereas on other shows, they really couldn't do that. They couldn't form and have people understand the fundamental basis of what they felt made their products great, because Joe Schmo isn't really going to care about those things. But in these senses, it does. And back to what you're saying about, expensive stuff, you're right. I mean, ignorance is bliss. I mean, I went from the garage speakers that are in my garage now that were good to what I'm building my theater now. My wallet hates me, but that's part of removing the, blinders on and finding the things that I really like. And you can do a phenomenal amount with not a lot of money.
For you guys that have watched Ryan's video that Youthman did, I mean, he had, what'd you have, 40 Martin Logans hanging from the ceiling?
Oh, just because there was more on the ceiling than there were on the floor.
Yeah, which I think has been the only theater I've experienced like that. But literally, an awesome room. I got to spend a couple hours there. Literally a full-blown Martin Logan set up with, you had 5 JTR Captivators in that room too, right? And Storm Audio, NZ9, and this crazy ass guy is tearing all that apart. And one would ask, Ryan, why would you do that, sir?
Because of the learning process, right? Because I learned about, it's not always learning technical things, right? I learned also things about myself. I learned what I really like, and that those things change, or you really don't know what you like until you spend more time doing it, because you don't have the experience to know what you like and what you don't like. So I think a big part of it was trying to figure out what I liked, which I did know because I really liked the Martin Logan sound, which made it very hard for me to find a speaker that was going to tick all the boxes for me. It was very difficult to find something that was going to image the way that I wanted it to, and have the dynamic range to be able to keep up without distorting to the volumes that I wanted it to go to. The Martin Logans are fantastic. They're one of my favorite speakers of all time. The electrostatics are. The problem with them is and there's always a pro and con, is they don't have the dynamic range. They can't get loud enough, right? They run out of headroom. And so when I start pushing to certain volumes, they start distorting. That was a big problem for me, especially the house that we were going to build that I'm not going to do anymore, with the theater that I was going to do, which was enormous. I needed something with a huge amount of headroom, and the Martin Logans just weren't going to do it. Well, I went into a room at Atlanta Home Theater. I went down there. We were invited down there for a vendor day, and I got to see some really, really cool stuff and talk to a bunch of other vendors. I walked into a room with these speakers. There were 2 of them. They were horns.
Kat loves these speakers, by the way.
Oh, she does.
Mm-hmm. She's seen them. She goes, those look badass.
Yeah. So traditionally, I don't really care for horns. It's not that horns are bad. I've just never really liked the way they sound. You are a culmination of your life's experience, right? Everything that you have experienced impacts what you're going to like and what you're going to dislike. I, for whatever reason, don't really care for most horns. However, these speakers that I walked in on, they were horns, and I thought, they're not going to be very good. I don't really like horns. And then I sat down. Jeffrey turned on a piece of music, and within half a second, I knew those are the next speakers that are going to go in my theater. That was it. That was all it took, because I had enough experience in the space to know what I liked, what I was looking for. And if I heard what I was looking for, I knew that was what it was going to be. So I heard it. I got the imaging that I wanted. I got the dynamic range that I wanted, because they were horns, and I couldn't really find any faults, except, this is the con to them, is the price point, right? There's always some type of trade-off.
What
right?
what is the MSRP on those? After you add, we're not going to talk about a Groupon or double coupon.
You didn't get the Groupon coupon?
My internet's slow out here.
Oh,
okay?
I must have gotten the only one in existence. So the Black Swans MSRP each, I think, is like $30,000.
That's in pesos. Well, I mean,
No.
normal guy would only order 2 of them. You wouldn't.
No, I had to get 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, for a spare?
For the center.
Oh, yeah, that only makes sense.
So Ryan's wife may be watching. She knows. I mean, I am blessed that I have the most tolerant wife on the planet. I don't know how
she's using her debit card. How would she
exactly.
know? Yeah,
exactly. Oprah Winfrey, you shouldn't be talking. You give cars away to everybody.
Yeah.
Should be a black swan under everybody's seat.
So in my mind, I'm picturing 3 black swans up front. Now, what are we looking at? 9 bed layer speakers? What do you
I think right now it's 11.
11 bed layer?
11 bed. It may be 9. So Officina Acoustica is who I'm doing the room with. So guys, you got to remember.
Get into this. I hate to stop you, but because I got to do this in steps in my mind. Once your whole room is completely cleaned out, what is is there something happening to the room itself?
Yes.
Which is what?
Okay, so the room as it sits is currently, the actual usable space is like 14 feet wide and something like 35 feet long. Okay, it's a long room. It's not very wide. I mean, it's wide enough. The problem with something like the Swans is the Swans aren't exactly the most narrow speaker. They got a huge waveguide on them with the horn. They're wide. So I needed a wider space. The other problem is that Officina Acoustica, who I'm having do the room, how their stuff works is it stands off the wall using standoffs about 7 inches. And then you have the panels themselves, which are a few inches deep. So I'm going to lose like 10 inches on each side of the room. So if I do that with the swans, I don't really have enough space. So what it's going to come down to is I'm going to have, after we rip everything out. So we're taking everything down to the studs. I'm going to move an existing wall back 2 feet, right? So I'm going to get 2 feet back. Then I'm going to lose roughly 10 inches on each side. So I'm going to have an overall width of like 14 and a half to 15 feet. So I'm going to kind of go back to exactly where I am now. But that's how that's going to work. What we're doing, though, is we're ripping everything down to the studs. We're going to decouple all of the studs from the concrete walls. There's concrete walls on 3.5 sides of the theater. We're going to decouple the studs from the walls. Then we have to build out a mounting system for the officina stuff to attach to. You don't want to use drywall because it doesn't have the tensile strength or the mounting strength to be able to do this. So we're going to channel and clip OSB to everything instead of drywall. So all the walls in the ceiling are going to have OSB. And then we mount the officina stuff to the OSB, and then the speakers and everything sit behind the officina acoustic panels. So every panel in the theater is going to be some level of diffusion and absorption. And then we're going to have a massive baffle wall at the front, and then have some type of acoustic treatments at the back, and then some type of acoustic treatments at the front.
So speaking, I mean, on kind of like what I asked, what you were thinking about for bed layer, Mikey, how do you timber match those swans, and what bed layer are you planning on going with?
So it's all Ascendo. The bed layer is going to be the 12s, berylliums. So they should be fairly timber matched. I mean, they're designed to work in that capacity by Jeffrey. The swans were originally conceived by Jeffrey because Ascendo is historically a 2-channel company, right? They've historically made 2-channel speakers. Jeffrey brought them into home theater and then wanted to find or create a speaker that bridged the gap between home theater and 2-channel. Now, normally, I say that a good speaker is a good speaker, and I firmly believe that. The separation between a lot of 2-channel speakers in home theater is that 2-channel speakers a lot of times do not have the needed dynamic range to work in a home theater environment, because home theater typically is a lot louder than 2-channel. So most 2-channel speakers, like these guys behind me, don't have the SPL capability that is needed to be able to work to hit reference or any of these other ridiculous numbers that home theater needs. So the Black Swans do something like a sensitivity of 117 dB a piece. So that means they're hitting 117 dB at 1 meter at 1 watt, which is insane. So they're designed to timber match already with the coaxial 12s that are be going in as surrounds and tops.
Now, are these passive, or are these powered?
So the Black Swans are active. They don't have built-in amps, but the crossovers are going to be handled by the processor, and then the 12s are going to be passives, because if I tried to do them active, I would need like 70 channels of processing. And I talked to Jeffrey and Todd from Ascendo about this a while, and they're like, no, the passives are going to be more than enough. We all agreed. There's no way that we're going to do active channels to that level. The passives are good enough that that's going to be acceptable. So
and what will you be powering them with?
We don't really know yet, in all honesty. The problem that we run into, I love Buckeye. The problem we're at this juncture is that Jeffrey is recommending that we have amps that can do 500 watts at 8 ohms, which the HypeX modules in the Buckeyes can't do. I mean, they'll do 500 watts at 4 ohms, but they won't do it at 8 ohms. So I don't know yet. Right now, we're leaning towards the Ascendo amps, but hasn't been decided yet.
I have 2 questions.
Oh, Catherine has 2 questions.
Will you have these by MWAVE? And is it possible to see them in person?
So the hope is that the room will be done by MWAVE. I hope.
Yeah, because Michael's kind of pitching it. It's gonna be done.
Well,
no pressure.
It's not that he's pitching it. I told him that it would be done. So I'm hoping it'll be done. There is a kind of.
If it's not, we'll just blame Jonathan.
Yeah, he ruined my life.
Yeah,
ruined something else. There's kind of an asterisk that says if it's not done for anybody that signed up for the room tours, that they get their money back. I know that kind of sucks because you've set up time to come see it. It's only it's only an inconvenience for very few people because I'm also taking this theater with very few compromises. So I'm only doing 1 row in 3 seats. So everybody else has multiple rows, and this is nothing on them. It's all subjective in what decision you make. But for everybody, every time slot that I do, for anybody that's looked at the time slots, for every think it's hour and a half or 2 hours, you have another time slot, and they can fit in as many people as they have seats. Well, some guys have 9 seats or 12 seats. I have 3 seats. So I'm inconveniencing less people, I guess. So that's a benefit. But I hope it'll be done. I hope it'll be done because it's been like a couple weeks and I already don't like not having a theater.
So when is groundbreaking? I mean, what do we have a start date?
Oh, the contractor is supposed to start demo the beginning of December. So we got to rip everything out, which I don't think will take very long, and then start building everything back in. So the beauty of the Officina stuff is we can do things in stages. So we can build everything up to the OSB, and then once that stage is done, then it's Officina time, right? So we can have multiple contractors working simultaneously. So the room will be built in Italy, where Officina is located, and then it'll come over here and we'll put it all together.
Catherine starred this comment, so I'm just bringing it up.
Mike, that's only a problem if you're 10 inches to begin with. Okay.
So in my mind, this is making some sense. Now my mind automatically goes to Atmos. What are we doing for Atmos?
Same thing.
In this? Yeah.
The 12s.
Okay.
Because in my eyes, you go as like speakers as you can all the way. Like in the current theater, like how it existed before,
yeah, I
would have put electrostatics on my ceiling, but they didn't really have anything that would work in that capacity, so I didn't do it. But I wouldn't. It's too expensive to put black swans on my ceiling, so I'm not going to do that.
Then you just be showing off.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we doing for video?
I don't know yet. I would say that it's probably maybe going to be an NZ9, I think, but that could change because the screen is going to be quite large.
How big a screen are you going? And what have you decided on? What kind of screen? Automatic masking, manual masking?
No, I think we're going to do a 2-to-1. Same thing as Chirpy. And this screen is, I think, going to be 170 inches. So I've got 135 diagonal now. It'll be 35 inches larger. Well, mine's 16:9, so it'll actually be significantly wider. What processor did I decide on? Probably Storm. The only issue with Storm right now is they don't have FIR filters, and I kind of need those. It makes calibrating and integrating the Black Swans a little bit easier because the Black Swans are active. So I need to be able to integrate the crossovers together. And to ideally do that, I need FIR filters, and they don't have them yet. But Matt tells me they're coming. So
what brand screen are you planning on going with?
It'll probably be Seymour.
Okay, I got Seymour coming up on the podcast in a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about.
Yeah, they suck.
There goes my viewership.
They don't suck. Chris and Evan and that whole company are fantastic. They've been huge supporters of MWAVE since the beginning. We are very, very thankful for having them in the industry. And if you need a screen, Seymour.
Oh yeah, I've talked to Chris a couple of times, and I mean he's awesome to deal with, no doubt.
They're a great supporter of the enthusiast space too, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, when I talked to him, I said, "Hey man, I'm just starting a new podcast. I'm just trying to bring some cool people in. And just talk about your screens. I've experienced them. I've talked with you. I think it'd be cool to have you on." He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm game." So he's not just all about sales and stuff. What I think a lot of people don't understand, like about Mark Seaton, about Jeff from JTR, about Chris Seymour, is obviously these guys all have a business to run. But what it really is they're just hardcore enthusiasts that took that next step into like running their own business.
They get to play with the toys for a living.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So, and I'm not sidestepping one of the most important questions about your theater. That would be the most important to me. But
I did something.
you did do something, dude. What were you doing?
There's the wiping up the
Hold on,
What'd you break?
yeah, I got a new trainee over here, and for the 40 cents a day I've been paying her. What do we have?
She gets 40 cents?
Well, not all up front.
Oh.
I owe her. Here you go. You are. Oh. No. Huh? No, they're not gonna be able to say. Sorry for this technical malfunction, guys. That's why this is a free podcast. And my helper over here, she got excited and started hitting some other buttons. So Ryan, what I wanted to know, because you guys displayed some different seating at MWAVE, what's going to be the new seating in your theater?
I honestly have no idea. That is actually a great question.
I like those seats that Jonathan has where the headrests go back.
Yeah, but the stuff that he had to do to get those.
Yeah,
he wasn't sure that he wasn't getting ripped off until they showed up at his door.
Oh, I didn't hear that story.
Oh yeah, he had like doubts on whether they were actually going to show up.
Well, I really enjoy them.
I mean, he ordered them off Alibaba.
Oh, did he? No kidding.
So the company was on Alibaba. Yeah.
I had no idea. I like that's an awesome concept to me. I like that.
And then they slow boated from China. Like it took a few months for them to get here. So he's like, I don't know if they're actually coming.
We will just sit on these milk crates until
so every time he brought it up, it was like an addition to the Jonathan saga. I mean, Jonathan had to ruin his own life. It's only fair.
He's got the bumper sticker on his truck too.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I honestly don't know what I'm going to do for seating. It's probably going to be some sort of couch, because as much as I like home theater seats, a lot of people love them. I'm too much of a lounger. Like if I could get a huge couch that was nothing but a couch and everything had an attached ottoman or a chase, that'd be great.
Now, you sold or selling your K-Scape? I imagine you're going to be going with K-Scape again.
I would.
Right?
Everything's leaving now for the time being, because this theater's going to be inoperable for several months. So everything's going, and then I'll get it back.
So what will the new K-Scape setup look like? Are you going like what is it, like 22 terabyte or
probably 22?
Yeah,
that's what I had before. But they upgraded, so they went from the Terra to the Terra Prime. So we'll see. It'll be a Terra Prime of some sort. K-Scape, once I used to be a doubter, right? And then I became a dealer, and I'm like, all right, let's see what this is all about. And ordered a demo, and then it was over. Because I tell people, you don't buy K-Scape for the fidelity. Because, yes, there are certain things that are going to be higher fidelity. Will you notice? I have no idea. Because we are all dumb, as I said previously, and we don't have a direct A/B comparison. So how can anybody say if it's better unless you're putting them right next to each other and listening? Could they measure better? Sure. Look at what happens with Audio Science Review all the time with amplifiers. But can you hear it or can you see it? That's the important part. Can it be measured? Yes, no doubt on some of their stuff. But at the end of the day, if you can't hear it or see it, why does that matter? And you may ask, well, if he's saying all of this and talking badly about Kaleidoscape, why does he have one? Why does he talk so highly about it? Well, the main reason for that is convenience, and it always works. So I've got an 80 terabyte Plex server. I've got 1,500 movies 4Ks on Plex, plus a bunch of series and stuff for my kids and all kinds of stuff. But I have to maintain that, right? I am my own IT department with that. So when it doesn't work, and I'm off in New York like I was last week, and my wife calls me and says, hey, Plex doesn't work. How do I fix it? Well, now I'm having to troubleshoot how to fix that. And things happen. But with Kscape, one of its claims to fame is it just works, man. I've never had an issue with my Kaleidoscape. My kids want a movie. Yeah, I have to pay for it. But if you play the sale game, it's $10. So it's the convenience and the usability. This is something that is so overlooked by people in their theaters. Usability. If your theater is so complex that your family doesn't want to come down and use it, something's wrong, right? Kaleidoscape is so easy to use because it's simple. So it interacts just like everything else does. You don't have to go find things, cycle through menus. It just works and it looks good. And my wife knows how to work it.
I love Kscape, and I currently have a Zapedi, which obviously we all know what they're going through. And I run the Panasonic 820. And if I'm forced to stream something, like if we're going to run a movie that I knew I wouldn't buy, like a romantic comedy or some shit, I'll just Apple TV it and run it or whatever. But honestly, the reason why I don't have a Kscape is because, during my room build, if hey, I'm going to spend 5, 10, 15 grand right now, it's on subs. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I was doing.
Yeah, I totally get that. And it's a tough one because it's one of those things that's pay to play, right? You got to pay to get into the ecosystem. But then once you get into the ecosystem, right, it's fine. It's just like buying a Blu-ray.
I'll end up with the Kscape. There's no doubt about it. There was just other things that I want to do.
Now that you're done with subs, but now you want to project.
Now that I'm done with what?
Subs.
Oh shit!
No. You
need help packing?
The stacking is about ready to start.
Yeah,
done. He's done with 7 around. Now he's going to the second layer.
Yeah, and we have wet base signs all over this house that Mark Giovanetti keeps making up because of an episode, Sarah, of you. And I guess that is, maybe I accidentally forgot to bring this up about your theater, but so you're going to have all these cool 12-inch core axles and these black swans. Mm-hmm. So you probably don't need any subs, right? With all those?
We're just going to do everything full range.
They're beautiful. Okay, so we don't have to talk about subs.
No, why talk about them?
So, there's Tony. I keep mine complex so no one else can use it.
Tony, I don't even know that I don't think Tony has ever watched a movie in his theater.
Listen to this. So we've been to Tony's house, and we experienced it. And Tony is a very, very meticulous person. Like everything has to be perfect. But so the last time not the last time, because we just went to Rich's house for a get together. But before that, I said, "Hey, have you been enjoying the theater?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "Why? What's wrong?" He goes, "Because his nephews or something." I might be telling the story wrong, but anyway, just of it was, I had some family over and we watched Trolls, and I heard something I didn't like. So when they left, I kept re-listening to that one part of Trolls, and he goes, "Now I got to completely tear in everything and figure why that 1 second doesn't sound right." So yeah, I believe that maybe Tony does not enjoy his theater at all. He put, wow, ouch. Oh, maybe he's talking about something else. Hey, Fred. Subs on the ceiling, yes. Just like, you know what? And that's not a silly thing to say, because I wouldn't mind stacking a sub in the theater, because as the RTJ set up, and I've learned, is that by putting subs close to the ceiling is just like putting subs close to the floor.
Corner gain.
Yeah, and you cancel, you help out your frequency response. It's just like covering 4 corners. I guess in an ideal theater, I would have, you don't know where I'd have subs. I'd build my fucking couch out of subs, I guess. I don't know.
He needs to take an Ascendo 80 and put it in as a ceiling. There is no ceiling, only subwoofer.
Man, now I'm really sleeping all night tonight. I got to get the measuring tape out.
No.
So Ryan, obviously you're building an ultimate in-game home theater for yourself, and we only briefly talked about this because I was getting excited, but what's the LFE going to look like in your room?
So that happened. Part of that happened today. I had mentioned in my build thread that something may be coming. I don't really know of very many other theaters that have it, but I pulled the trigger on a 50-inch sub.
Whew.
So it's going in the back. For anybody that hasn't seen it, Youthman did a short on the 50. It is enormous. It weighs 1,000 pounds, so I have to get piano movers to move it down. The driver, when it's running, doesn't even look like it's moving. And it's actually kind of weird because you're like, is it even on? Like, is it just, when we saw it at Atlanta Home Theater, I was like, are the Black Swans the one doing it? But if you go up and touch the driver, it is running.
That's what Kat just asked. She said, was that the sub in that video? Yeah.
Yep. It's not that particular sub, but it's
that model. Yeah. So
50 in the back. And then up front, we're going to do, at this point, 2 32s and 6 21s, I think is what we're looking at for the time being.
Yeah, I got to give Jeff a call.
No, I don't think I'll have more low-end grunts than you.
But dude, we're both just going to have plenty. Let's just, we're both going to have just, ridiculous amounts. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's going to be ridiculous.
We're both going to have more than enough to rip our houses apart.
That 50 though, that's going to be something.
Yeah, I will say, I don't think it's going to have, it's not like I'm going to have exponentially more low end than you. The beauty of the 50 and these huge drivers is the excursion.
Just to say you're longer than me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, some people say size doesn't matter, but if I whip it out and it's like, bam, you're going to be like, oh!
I guarantee you, if somebody goes to your room, looks at your 50 and looks at my 18, they're going to be like, damn, that 50's big.
Yeah. I mean,
thanks. I feel about this big right now.
So the design philosophy behind these huge subs, like 32 and the 50, is that you don't really need any excursion. So the driver doesn't hardly have to move. And the philosophy is less discursion. Excursion means less distortion is the design philosophy behind it. So it's not that it's necessarily going to be able to dig lower, because it won't. It's that theoretically there should be less distortion in the room.
You see Tony from the Peanut? You see Tony from the Peanut Gallery in here?
My whole life is perpetual compensation.
Yeah, because of Jonathan. Jonathan ruined that for you, didn't he?
Yeah, Jonathan, steal my girl than England.
That's a long name to put on a contract.
Well, you know, that's what he's known for. I have to be careful when he comes in my house.
So, and not that money, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea, because honestly, the money in the hobby doesn't mean anything. I've built systems for myself that cost a few $100s, a few $1,000s. And all the money I got in both of my systems, I know people that have spent more than that in one projector. So, but I mean, this is like,
it's a lot.
$500,000 build.
It's a lot. I don't even know. It's
gotta be.
Wow. It's a lot. But what I think in my position that I want people to realize is that this isn't only for my own enjoyment. I mean, I do this professionally for a living. So not only is this my theater,
tax write-off.
It's my showroom. So what I tell people is, like with my projector, right? If I walk in and I show you an NZ7 and you've never seen any of the JVCs before, how am I able to tell you without showing you what an NZ9 looks like? Right? So it's very easy to sell down, but it's much more difficult to sell up, if possible at all. So by this, and I'm just talking why I'm doing this, and this may be getting into too much, but hey, I'm transparent. You know, I think that's part of what's made my business work, is just being transparent. Sorry, I got to reorient myself.
Hey, have some Celsius, because Celsius makes you think clear.
It's gone.
Oh,
so, dang. I know. Oh, so the reason I'm building the theater is kind of a sales thing, right? If I don't have kind of a destination theater, because my target audience isn't necessarily just here in Kansas City, why are people going to want to come check out the showroom, right? If it's the same as anybody else's theater and it's not done to a certain level, what makes people want to come have an experience in said theater, right? So it's as much of a thing for myself and the experience for me as it is for a marketing and sales proposition for the business.
And that 1,000% makes sense. And I'm saying this because, I mean, obviously I'm not even a marketing team or anything for RTJ, but I've literally had 10, 11, 12 guys that have either driven 6+ hours or flown in because they're like, hey, if I'm going to drop 35 grand on a set of speakers, it's worth a $400 flight there and back to check them out because I can't go listen to them anywhere.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes sense, because if somebody wanted to check on a Sendo 32-inch or 50-inch sub, where are they going to go listen to it at? Not very many places.
I don't know. There's
2?
very few of them, and the 50 especially, there's very few of them in the country. I know Atlanta Home Theater has one. I don't know where any other one is.
This I was going to say, you would be the second that I would know of.
I mean, there's probably some other ones. There's a lot of times, having worked in the industry, there's a lot of sales and things that can take place on theaters that there's NDAs behind because they're for people that really don't
Yeah, they don't care to share. Yeah, they don't.
Well, it's not about caring to share. It's that there's notoriety behind the name, and they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like famous people and stuff. We run into that all the time, where you do something in a theater, like through madVR, and you have to sign NDAs and stuff that you can't talk about it, or so on and so forth. So,
I'm
part of the industry.
We didn't talk about madVR going in your new theater, but what is the madVR outlook? Are you going to be using with whatever projector you get? Will madVR be in play regardless of any projector you get? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, what it does on the NZ9, which is regarded as the best as far as video processing, it's night and day. I mean, it takes everything to the next level. I love the motion interpolation, the AI-based motion interpolation it does. The reason I am going with a 2:1 screen is because of the madVR of the NV. So because I can change the aspect ratio of the content, I can effectively maximize and use my entire screen for 16:9 and 235 content without really wasting anything. And I should back up. Nick and I had a conversation a couple days ago, and he said, well, why don't you just go 4096 by 2160, which I think is what is that? 1.9 to 1, which makes more sense because it fits the 4096 by 2160 aspect ratio. So that's probably what I'll end up doing, because then I'm not wasting any light without a lens. So that made a lot of sense. That's probably the direction I'll go. And
is Tony making a joke here, because I'm not super familiar with madVR 3 Elite?
No, I have no idea what he's talking about. Tony's just being a loser. Anyway, I'm sorry, Tony. I love you.
That was said with love. I felt it.
There's always love in my voice.
It's a joke. He just said it's a joke.
Oh, well, mine was a joke too. What were we talking about? madVR, something about it. I don't even know.
Oh, no, you were talking about Nick, about not using a lens and being...
Yeah, we covered that. I'll remember when it's not important anymore.
Yeah, at 2 in the morning, text me and let me know what the thought was.
I'll call you.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah,
I'll put you on speaker.
Repeatedly.
You'll get me on the first 2 or 3 rings, man. I'm on emergency call 24/7, man. So...
I mean, I'll just tell you my toilet's backed up. I need a roto-rooter.
I'm on my way. It takes about 7 hours. Late to the party, boys. Hey, Jared. What's going on, buddy? Was partying a bit myself. Hey, man, it's Friday night. Do whatever you like, sir. Can't blame me for that. So just trying to think, because I think we have covered a lot of stuff. Oh, what is the... what is the chances of getting Ryan to Bass Brings It Together next year? I know you're a busy man, which is my
Up to your
event.
place?
Yeah.
Depends on when it is. If you can let me know early enough or tie it into Expona, around Expona.
Yeah, I've been kicking that idea around because a lot of guys have reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be in town anyway. A lot of it at this point now is just working around Mark Seaton's schedule and Jeff's schedule and Youthman's schedule, just because Youthman will come and stay with me and Jeff will come into town for it and Seaton will come into town for it. So I'm going to see if that's...
How far away are you from Expona?
Hour and 15 minutes.
I mean, if you could do that, I would come. No doubt.
All right.
Cool. I'm going there. I'm running a room, I think, with Martin Logan.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. So I'll be there. So that'll be fun. I mean, I enjoyed Expona last year. I just wish there was more objective stuff, man, with people that I felt like knew the space scientifically instead of it just being so blah.
Yeah.
Like, here's my opinion.
I hate the music. I hate the music there.
Yeah, put some music on that's going to push a system.
Yeah.
There's slower stuff that's going to push a system that can expose things. Like, one of my favorite things is ones to turn on for that is The Ghost of Johnny Cash, which is a phenomenal. It's just male vocal, and it's not in your face or anything, but it'll push a system. So it's...
Dude, I was asking people to play like Keith Don't Go by Nils Lofgren, and they wouldn't even play that. Yeah.
No.
And that's the same thing as to me, if I can't at least listen to one or two things I really want to, it's a huge turn off.
Well, what are your takeaways from that if that's all they let you do? That's what bothers me. Like, what are you going to remember? Nothing.
How much I hated that music.
Yes.
Yeah.
All you're really going to remember, because most of the speakers are ugly, is how ugly the speaker was.
Yeah.
That's it. You're not going to remember anything acoustically about it because nothing was remarkable. It's just going to be like, this box that is making sound is unimaginably ugly. That's
Tony.
what I remember.
Boy, Tony, you were just on everybody's ass tonight. I only play Centipede. Are we talking about the video game or the song? Which, you know, Tony, I don't know if you knew, but Youthman did that video on my room, and it caught part of Centipede in the front, and they hit him with a copyright. So
you did that intentionally.
No, he did the filming.
No, it was all your fault.
Actually, I think Jonathan was the one that alerted YouTube to say, hey, you need to check this guy out.
Almost got Youthman's channel stricken and taken down. He tried. Didn't work.
So cool, man. We got to talk about Ascend. We got to talk about MWAVE. Got to talk about madVR. Is there anything else? I mean, I know there's a million things that you guys got going on right now. Is there anything that I'm missing? We got to talk about the new cool theater build. We're going to see you in MWAVE regardless, obviously.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'll give up by then. Just be done.
Just with everything?
Just be like, Michael, it's on you. Good luck. And walk away. No.
Yeah. Your phone's blowing up now, dude. Are you all right, man? Is everything okay?
I'm good. Never better. Have fun.
Yeah, Tony, I can't believe how uptight they are with that stuff. You know, and that's what I say too, because I'm like, because everybody always asks, hey, what song are you playing? I mean, I think that it's good for the people making the music, because we're only playing a couple second clip of it anyway. People are like, hey, what is that song? I want to check it out. I could see if we were playing a whole song, but like literally 3 seconds. I mean, come on. And through an iPhone that you're listening to on your computer speakers. Really?
Best of quality.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I appreciate you hanging out with me on a Friday night, because I'm sure you had nothing else better to do on a Friday night, right?
I never have anything to do.
No? You just sit down. Now, you won't even leave that space until Sunday, right, for the podcast?
I don't move. I just sit here and stare at the monitors.
You just have the wife, hey, Celsius, Celsius.
Bathroom.
Yeah.
Sandwich.
She's bringing down Hot Pockets and a portable toilet for you.
Yeah. Just holding it underneath and I'm just letting them
Yeah.
rip. Yeah, exactly.
I love that episode.
It's such a
When I was in trading stocks and stuff for a while, I would
Oh.
always share that in the chat. Like, is this all you guys do? And I would always share that meme and shit. So that was funny.
That's my favorite episode. It's such a
Mikey wants to know if you guys got tremors in.
that is on my to-do list for tomorrow. Are you gonna watch it?
No, I don't watch TV or nothing. Or is it a movie? Or is it
It's
a
a
series? Oh, it's a movie?
I'm just imagining. I'm imagining Scott just sitting in his theater listening to bass frequencies, and that's all he listens to.
Well,
It's just like
I mix a
frequency.
lot of Rue sweeps in there.
Just nothing but 40 hertz flat. Then we'll go to 50. Then we'll go down to 30, and that's it. Maybe a room sweep, maybe a compression test, and that's it.
Well,
No music,
you gotta
no
you gotta get
movies.
some sweeps in there to move the driver. You gotta cool the coils down. You can't just run the constant sine wave. So,
Well, I mean, you could.
what's your top 5 favorite demo disc, guys?
I'm gonna assume that's demo clip.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can give you 5. Right now, it's Top Gun is still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Easy. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The scene's amazing for everything in a theater.
A big one that has been very popular with my last couple of get-togethers is still the Jumanji scene with the white rhinos, the helicopter escape with the white rhinos running through. Everybody loves that one. The beginning scene of John Wick 4 where he's punching that board, a lot of people get into that. I mean, I'm actually going to do a whole podcast on nothing but audio and video scenes.
That scene is actually really good for revealing how much really low frequency your system can do. Like, because there's a lot of really low stuff that if your theater doesn't have the guttural push to do the low stuff, you're just not going to hear.
Yeah. Tony
Ready-
Unbroken intro still fantastic.
Yeah.
I still use that one. That one's awesome.
That one is good. What's your favorite of all time?
Mine.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the Pamela Anderson behind the scenes? Are we live still? No, I'm just kidding. Oh man, my favorite. Oh man, there's.
You played that Tron one a lot for.
I used to play Tron a lot. That used to be my favorite.
Light bikes.
What's that?
The light bikes.
Yeah, I use Hans Zimmer a lot too, just because it has a lot of detail, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. I use the Jumanji a lot.
Ready Player One.
I use the shotgun scene from John Wick 3. I'll do that at like 50 over reference, because people like to really feel like they got shot in the chest. Man, I don't know if I can pick one. I'll write you a letter and mail it to you because I don't want everybody to know.
So my 2 favorites are the Blade Runner 2049 intro and Emergency in A Quiet Place. Like, there's so much. The reason I like those 2 scenes is because there's so much dynamic range in both of them. Like in A Quiet Place, when it's coming down the hill or the stairs, and then
right after she steps on that nail.
She goes upstairs. Yeah, but then she goes upstairs, and then it's so quiet, and the music is building, and then she goes into labor, and then she screams. That is just like everything builds up to that moment, and then the crescendo happens, and it's just this amazing swirling of energy around. It's so well done. And then Blade Runner 2049, again, the buildup for everything while the text is coming in, while they're going through the intro credits, and then the car flies through is just an amazing overall captivating experience. Like, I think a lot of people get so caught up on, this is just my opinion, but a lot of people get so caught up on like what scenes do one thing really well. But then if you go back and watch scenes that do really everything really well, it is a totally different experience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it takes you to, you forget that you're watching a demo and you just get pulled in to everything. And those are the ones that I really chase. Those two are my probably favorite. That Gravity is also really good.
You're reading my mind, because I was right on the tip of my tongue. I was waiting for you to get done talking to say that when they're spinning around, just all the effects
Yeah. Even when she's just in her spacesuit trying to get her breath and she's spinning after she released herself, flying out into space. And then all of a sudden it gets quiet as the camera passes through her helmet into inside her helmet. That's one of the coolest camera shots I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just so immersive. And it really showcases the ability of a theater to pull you in. And it's just, those three are amazing. There's others, but like the Dune one, the new Dune.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is their intro, or the Sandworm, because you've got all of this huge dynamicness, and then the music that plays when the Sandworm is taking down the ship. There's just any of the really good, well-mastered movies, I think, take everything to the next level.
Tony's always been a fan of this one in my theater, the Underworld scene. And I've never even watched all the Underworlds. It was just this one scene, and it had good Atmos effects.
They're terrible.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
I bought them all, but I never.
Worth watching, but terrible.
Jared said that the opening scene to Toy Story 2 absolutely slams. I have to dig out my VHS and see how that does.
One of my favorites lately is Paw Patrol Mighty Pups. That's the one that really gets me going.
An old school, well, I don't know how many years ago, but I used to use for bass a lot, was the server room in Pulse. That Pulse server room, because I think that was like a steady 15 or 16 hertz, like vibing in and out when she's in that room. Finding Nemo, Godzilla versus Kong. Overlord, the beginning of Overlord.
Oh my God.
Jeff was using that a lot in the MWAVE demo, and people were like, they were blown away by the Atmos.
That can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
Something that's interesting about those two, Overlord and Fury, when they're encountering the tiger. So Overlord's beginning, and then Fury's the tiger tank. Both of those can be kind of eye-opening for people's systems, because not only are they great demo scenes, they can also showcase inadequacies in low frequency calibration. Because, and I'm guilty of this even this year, before I did my full recalibration after MWAVE, which took everything to the next level. It can showcase how out of control your low frequency can get, because things will get really boomy in both of those movies if you don't have the phasing and the time alignment and the EQ properly done. So they can be really revealing, not only very loud and very overwhelming, by contrary to a lot of people maybe believing, they can also be really revealing to your low end stuff, which is pretty cool.
And I was guilty of that for
all
years.
were.
And a lot of people ask me, and this ain't just a shout out JTR, but a lot of people ask me, like, why did you go the route you did? Because literally I would get into those movies, watch those movies, and I would always be very conscious of where my volume's at, make sure I don't go too loud. I'm going to blow something. I'm going to hurt something. And now I don't worry about any of that.
Yeah, you don't care.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just going to put it as loud as I feel like I can stand it today.
You're more worried about, is it too loud? Is something going to fall off my ceiling? That's more of what your concern is with JTR is, am I actually damaging my home? And the answer is yes, but you're not worried about damaging the sub. You're worried about ripping a crack into your foundation.
Yeah. So I was big into the Klipsch Ultra series for years, but I was blowing up tweeters and, so somebody put the car scene in the new Batman movie. I did enjoy that a lot. The bank scene in Heat, man, I haven't watched that in forever.
I haven't seen that, and I don't even know how long.
Yeah. I bought it on 4K. I think it's still in the wrapper. Or you're hearing.
This is part of back to my conclusion that you don't actually watch movies.
Right. I don't watch TV. Kat watches TV series. I don't watch TV. literally just, and I don't know if it's because I'm overstimulated by being on the phone literally all day. If I come home and for some reason nobody's around, I'll just sit in an empty room with nothing on and nothing to stimulate. I don't need to be stimulated.
Dad, is he really just listening to boo? Boo. That's his quiet room. It's all he's hearing is these sweeps coming in.
Well, see, like say if we want to have a romantic evening, I'd be like, honey, you want to come down and hold my hand while we listen to roof sweeps all night?
Date night.
So that's really the way to a woman's heart is the.
We used to watch movies like every Friday. We haven't really been doing much of that.
I got a new stack of movies in there, so we could have a marathon for a while. So,
How old are your kids?
our oldest is 52, and then 23, 14, and 6.
The young kids do it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
It's
the 14-year-old could give a shit less about anything.
My 13-year-old doesn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah. And our 23-year-old, I mean, she just got back from college not too long ago, and she's finishing school right now. And obviously she's got her own life, but yeah, it's a 6-year-old that.
Our 4-year-old, we'll start something and then we'll hear her coming down the stairs. And then it just makes it to the point of kind of like a theater that's not easy to use. It just makes it like, why am I trying? I can't get into this. Why am I trying? And so that's just kind of.
Yeah, we're too busy building Legos.
Yeah. Or taking kids to activities and doing all that stuff. So I don't think it's that you don't love it anymore. It's that finding time away from the life-crushing sea urchins that always need our time can be difficult.
All right, I'm just making sure I'm sharing everybody's contact. Oh, we got Tony's wife laughing. Well, we're good for a joke here and there. I mean, our personable faces. We do more than just look good all the time.
I'm trying to think if there was anyone that got my wife.
You see, Tony? We should go on a double date of listening to room sweeps.
I did a low frequency sweep once, and a can light fell out on the second store that startled my family. So that was a fun one.
Wow.
I don't have
with the captivators. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a clip sub is not going to do that.
Yeah.
It may eject its driver halfway across the room, but it's not going to make a can light fall out.
Thanks. Now I'm going to get 300 hate emails and people with pitchforks out my front yard because Ryan said something bad about clips.
It's all right. Just blame me. It's fine. Their new subwoofers are way better, though.
Oh, those 1600 SWs?
It showed really well at MWAVE, especially for its price point. It's got some punch.
It's nice to see them taking a more serious approach to it, for sure.
We
all know they have the money.
It was about time.
Yeah.
Well, they have the money and they have the capability. I honestly think that they're making business decisions because they're focusing on a larger part of the market.
Well, of course. Yeah, they're because 80 or 90% of the market, and there's nothing wrong. There's happy.
If I can sell 100 to X%, but I can sell several thousand to another percent at a cheaper price, I'm going to pick the several thousand every single time. You're going to make more money.
Yeah.
So I don't blame them. I mean, I think they're making good business determinations. Can't fault them for it. I'm just glad they're enthusiasts.
So it's just a lot more fun to see them kick out a really cool product once in a while, you know?
Yeah, that is true. And to see it in a blind A/B comparison do decently well.
Yeah, because in that comparison, and I'm tied you up almost for 2 hours here now, and I know, because that big box was what? That was the dual 21 by GSG,
mm-hmm.
And then you had the.
To the 21's defense, though, we didn't calibrate it, and it really needed some DSP. It was on the struggle bus.
And then you had the RS1, JTR RS1. Then you also had. What? Can you give us that lineup real quick? Because
we had the GSG, we had the RS1, the PB16, Martin Logan 1600X, the Arundel. I don't even know what its model number is. the Klipsch, some kind of ELAC.
You had I'm sorry, because I was going through these messages. You had a PB16 in there, right?
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah. Okay. And the Klipsch.
Oh, and, yeah, I got them all. Yeah, the Klipsch 1600 or whatever.
Yeah, they finished like top 2 or top 3.
The interesting thing about the subs is that people were all over the place. Like when we did the speaker comparison, it was almost universal. Everybody liked Martin Logan and everybody liked SVS. Arundel did decently, but universally, everybody liked those two. The subs, everybody was all over the place. There was no real consensus. If I were to go back and do it, I would probably put on, and I'll do it this year or next year. We'll do some home theater content because the music really didn't get low enough for the RS1 to really show where it was doing. People actually, it was interesting, thought the RS1 was distorting because it was playing things that none of the other subs could do. So that I had to establish a curtain. Like somebody was like, man, the RS1 doesn't sound very good. Is something wrong with it? Like, no, you're hearing lower frequencies. And I had to show him that, let me put a curtain on it and it'll sound almost exactly like the PB16. And then let me show you when it happens when I take the curtain off. And that's because you're getting to lower frequencies and the room interaction and a bunch of other stuff. So that was kind of eye-opening for people. But interestingly, there was no real consensus of a winner for the subs. The Klipsch was some people's favorite, which was really interesting.
One other quick question, because my
Sure.
mind bounces
You're
all
good.
around like yours too, is in my mind, and for the people in this chat, some of these guys I met at MWAVE. How much more space do you guys have to grow there? Because you were using all the rooms or almost all the rooms when I was there, right?
So we were using a good portion of the rooms. We can do certain things where there were actually some other rooms. So we've got this like space that you can divide into 3 large rooms, which I'm going to use for the comparisons. Probably one of the theaters, and then something probably. So I'll do the audio comparisons in one of them. We'll do the video comparisons in another one. We're going to combine the TVs and the projectors into one room. We're potentially going to get rid of the hospitality room and just put it up with the table, or kind of hide some tables where people can come chat, the vendors, to get a break. So there's some things that we can do to get some rooms, but the point of MWAVE isn't really to have a bunch of individual things like 2-channel speakers. It's about having combined systems. We're trying to combine vendors to build out systems so that people can have an overall experience, experiencing multiple things at the same time, instead of worrying about experiencing one thing here, one thing here, one thing here. So we don't need as much space. I mean, I think we've got 18 rooms, something like that. And that's really all I want.
Are you losing anybody from last year, and who are we gaining? I mean,
vendors are still signing up. It's still pretty early.
Okay.
As far as who we've lost, I don't think we've lost anybody.
Okay,
Who
cool.
we've gained, RBH has signed up. They're coming, which is a big deal. I mean, very few people have really gotten to experience their stuff. I'm really excited about that, having them there.
Is Arundel doing a room this year with you guys?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. So we're still talking to vendors. Again, it's still very early. I don't know. There's talks about it, but we're not entirely sure yet. I would anticipate that everybody was there previously will come back this year.
Well, that's cool.
At least from the conversations that I've had with everybody. And then
because that was a good. I mean, that's a good layout.
We'll add some. Yep.
Cool. All right, Ryan. Well, hey man, you answered all my questions, which is awesome, and we answered everybody else's questions, and even got some people to, Tony rattling our chains a little bit. That's okay.
That's all Tony does. He just asks me about D-Box stuff and then makes fun of me. I get it.
Tony just got some new D-Box stuff too.
Oh, we did.
Tony, what were you just right in the chat? When we just were at that last home theater get together 2 weeks ago? What's the new D-Box setup you just got? because he just got something.
He was telling me he was thinking about going to one row.
I've been trying to convince him to go to one row and do a bunch of near field subs.
I don't know what I'm going to do about near field. I mean, I guess if I'm within 50 inches of the 50, I don't need near field.
Yeah, see, there you go. Are you going to be, though?
I should be.
Okay.
The room's only going to be 15 or 16 feet deep for the actual visual space. The baffle walls and stuff are going to eat up, and the screen wall is going to eat up a lot of that space.
He just said it's another used pair I bought off of AVS. Okay.
So he's gonna have 2 rows then?
Nah, he's double stacking one seat because he actually wants to fly.
It just pushes you right through the ceiling into the living room
He gets
upstairs.
shot, and it's just an ejection seat that ejects him towards the screen.
Yeah. Like during
cuz.
yeah.
That's all it's gonna be.
Just like Top Gun. I mean, it don't get more real than that, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so Tony, I'm just out of curiosity because a lot of people probably watch because I think you got 500,000 views on your room on Youthman's channel. What you bought another used pair, so you're gonna both your rows will be D-box now?
One probably had a scratch in it, and he had to replace it.
I will try near field next year, likely. Once he probably figures out that Trolls, issue he was having with that weird noise he heard in Trolls. Actually, it's funny because I told Tony, I said, hey, man, I want to come up for a demo because he's changed a lot of stuff. He goes, oh, yeah, you're invited. I said, when? He goes, when my room's done. And that was a year ago.
You guys never finish your rooms though, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
I mean, I'll say the room's done. I'm always finagling. I'm hopeful that this room, when it is done, that I'm satisfied. Like, I'm satisfied, but like I'm to a point where I don't really want to change anything. That's where I'm hopeful that this room gets. Because one of my friends who's a dealer down in Texas said it really well, is that I got to these speakers and all of this equipment, and I'm to yes, it was expensive, but I'm to a point now that I don't want to change anything. I have no desire to change anything in my space. I go in and I enjoy the movie. I'm not caught up with anything the room's doing, with the lack of what a speaker's doing. I'm just there. I'm happy with the space, and I don't want to change anything. And as unrealistic as that may sound coming from me, because I'm changing things all the time, I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that these changes with this space get me to that point. Because I don't know, honestly, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I mean,
yeah,
I'm getting to the point where I never thought I'd be in this position, but I don't know there's nowhere else for me to go. I mean, unless I'm going to do something like a Christie Eclipse, which no way in hell I'm going to do that. It's a cost of my house.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Yeah, Jared, just about the MWAVE thing about food and drink. I asked Youthman the same thing, and I guess it's just something in the works. They're looking at a couple different avenues.
So one of the problems there is there was supposed to be a concession stand there, and then they closed it. We're going to try and have food trucks and stuff there. So orchestrate food trucks and stuff being there for X time, where it's really no skin off us, because as long as people buy their stuff, they make enough money and they're happy. So we'll probably have food trucks, would be my guess.
Cool.
So Jared, that shouldn't be a problem.
What are you guys talking about this Sunday in your guys' podcast? Any idea?
Youthman is going to pick up his daughter from the Appalachian Trail. So I am stuck with the man who is going to end my life. Ruin my life, and Chirpy.
Nice.
So I think we're all going to talk about our room designs and how we got to the points that we're in. So I'm probably going to redo what we talked about today, but we're going to talk about Chirpy's room. We're going to talk about Jonathan's room. We're going to talk about Tremors. And
I experienced Jonathan's room. That's an amazing experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. I'm going to kick you off into the waiting room I appreciate your time, man. Everybody seemed like they had an awesome time. You gave us 2 hours, man. That's and it flew by just chatting with you at MWAVE at your house on this, audio brothers for life, no doubt, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you. It's cool to see you doing this, and I wish you all the greatest success in the world.
Hey, I
I'm
certainly
just happy you're enjoying the space.
Yeah, and that's when I started all this, I said, man, I just want to have a good time. And the biggest reason for me starting this is I get so many people asking me questions all the time. It's just thought it'd be a lot more fun to engage in this way than, because I hate writing an email. It's so, I don't know, there's no feeling behind that, and people take shit the wrong way.
Oh, let me tell you, you can put some feeling in an email.
Well, don't be writing me any emails anytime soon, sir. Yeah.
Remember
so
when we
let
were
you
talking
go,
about that 10 inches?
is it Ryan about to start construction? Yeah, Jared, because you chimed in a little bit late, but yeah, he said probably like first or second week in December they're supposed to get started.
I'm hoping so. Never know though.
All right, brother Ryan, I'm kicking you out of here, and I'll chat with you in a minute.
All right.
All right, man. Later.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. 2 hours on a Friday night, talking nothing but AV with Ryan Charpentier from Ascend Audio and MWAVE. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Appreciate the love and support. Everybody commenting, chiming in. Next week, I got Wayne Pamposa on. For the people following me and Kat on Living It with Scott and Kat, next Wednesday we're taking off because we're doing some family stuff. But I will be on next Friday night with Wayne Pamposa. Tomorrow night, I will be going live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time talking about RTJ. I got literally like 10 questions lined up that people have asked me over the last month or so about the RTJs. So I'm just going to hop on for a half hour, an hour, and talk about all of that. I'll answer them live. If you're enjoying the content, I certainly appreciate, the likes and subscribes. They help out the channel, help out the YouTube thing. If you're not part of our Facebook group, Kat and I's, because we kind of combined her and I's podcast and this podcast. We have our Living It podcast with Scott and Kat Facebook group. You guys are more than welcome to join. So once again, appreciate you guys. Love the support. Love you guys. And hope you guys all have a good evening and a good weekend. And I will see you guys tomorrow night if you want to hang out again when I'm doing the thing with the RTJ. So